Welcome, welcome. How wonderful to be here with you all tonight. Thank you for coming. Many of you came many miles, many of you online. We have a lot to celebrate. We have a lot to talk about. I've got some good news. Our tribe is growing. There are some of you here that you have been with us for decades. You've pioneered this journey and changed the way that the world sees hunger. And then there are many of you here that are new, even joining for the first time. Welcome. This is a deeply committed group, and I'm glad you're all here. I want to extend a very special welcome to our friends, our partners, our sponsors, first from the UN and related agencies, the Food and Agriculture Organization, the International Fund for Agricultural Development, the UN Population Fund, the World Food Program, and the UN Environment Program. Welcome. We are honored to have you here. Thank you for your partnership, and delighted you are listening tonight. Thank you. And a special thank you and acknowledgement to our corporate sponsors. You have made tonight possible. 2130 Partners, Advanced Solar Products, Citi, Clark Transfer, CWS, Deloitte, Gap International, Lumeri, and Wipro. That list has expanded. Thank you very, very much for helping us. So tonight's such a special night, our annual event, and we are all in for a treat. You're going to meet some people that will inspire us, that will lift us up. They will show us the way. I like to think of them as ambassadors from the future. They're lighting the path, so please be ready to be inspired. Now, all of you know we at the Hunger Project have a very big dream, the end of hunger. It's a beautiful dream, and we have kept that dream at the forefront of the global agenda for a long time now, since 1977. We shifted the global mindset around hunger from hunger is inevitable to hunger can end. And we helped write the Millennium Development Goals, including Sustainable Development Goal now 2, zero hunger. As you'll hear tonight, it's time to reinvigorate the dialogue and bring hunger back to the forefront. Now, Wendell Berry says eating is an agricultural act. So let's get started. Let's celebrate food. Take a moment and recognize the earth which produced this food, and to each other, to the many that work in the global food system that produce food and deliver food every day. And take a moment to think about the food from your childhood. What's one flavor or smell that brings back a memory? And what does it represent to you? Food is much more than filling our bellies. It's nourishment. Speaking of nourishment, I know many of you have enjoyed Joan Holmes' Planetary Citizens Handbook. Wow. Wow. We can all act now to make our world a better place. So I'd like to read some of Joan's words from that book. We're living at an extraordinary time in history, a time of great crisis and turmoil, a time of great promise. The ways we relate to one another and to our natural world are no longer working. Breakdowns are all around us. You may have wished to live in a less complicated time, in a more predictable and safer world. And yet, you are here now, and you are needed. Joan continues, at this time of crisis, chaos, and confusion, we must look deep within ourselves. Are we genuinely separate from nature and other humans living in a competitive win-lose world? Or is there a more profound truth that we live in a world where all of us and the natural world that sustains us are interconnected. I invite you to join individuals worldwide who are committed to calling forth a new paradigm, a new worldview, a new consciousness. The future is calling. This is our moment. Our news headlines just really continue to surprise us these days. War in Russia, food shortages, stagflation. It feels like the 1980s. There's even a new Top Gun movie. I thought we were done with all this, huh? But joking aside, I mean, we're on the eve of a global recession, and we're seeing climate disasters from Bangladesh to Florida. And what we're seeing more and more are breakdowns. This can be painful, this can be tragic. But breakdowns can sometimes lead to breakthroughs and new ways of being. Let's take a minute and go beyond those headlines. There's a few facts. Here's what's so. The number of people in chronic hunger has increased. It's up to 828 million people. That's enormous. 1 in 10 members of our human family. That number was going down until around 2016, 2017, and now it's growing. And since the pandemic, it's growing even faster. Even those that have enough calories, though, are lacking. There are 3 billion people that don't have access to healthy, nutritious food. Now, lack of nutrition in the first 1,000 days of life is especially critical. It can impact a body, it can impact a mind for life. And then there's stunting of growth and stunting of development. And then sometimes that cycle of poverty kicks in. Among those 3 billion people, more than 1 billion people are obese. People that are getting calories, but they're still hungry. It's another epidemic. And so this global food system of ours, this vast interconnected web of people and farms and stores and transportation and waste, it's failing around 1 in 4 people on the planet. And this is just unacceptable. And of course, prices are rising. Let me ask you, how much of your personal or your family's budget do you spend on food? Think for a moment about that. Is it 10% of your income or 20%? So in the US, we average around 10%, 10.9% of our monthly income goes to food on average. Prices rise, we tighten our belt, we make different choices, but very likely we won't go hungry. Now, for those living in poverty, this number can be much, much higher. It can be closer to their whole budget. 80 or 90% of their monthly income will go to food. And so food prices rise, and food becomes out of reach. This is where the rubber hits the road on hunger. It's a mom buying at a market food for her family, and simply she buys less food. Prices have gone up worldwide, but by how much? Now, early this year, I was talking with Grace, our country director from Malawi. She's going to talk to you in a minute here. By the way, I'm just the appetizer. Wait till you see the main course. Grace, she's fantastic. She's going to be speaking to us later. But I asked Grace, tell us about food prices in your country. What's going on? And she said that a liter of cooking oil went from $3 to $12. Wow. I looked it up, and here in the US, our cooking oil went up by about 20 or 30%. And so wheat rose on the commodities market, on the trading market, wheat went up 80% in a year. In several countries, including Malawi, there's been a doubling of the price of wheat. Wheat and cooking oil, these are some basics, huh? These are essentials. What do you do when the price of essential food doubles? And so for hundreds of millions of moms at the markets, they have some really difficult choices. How many people have more than 2 children? what would you do to stretch your budget in that case? Well, often in this situation, we know the research, the moms go without food themselves. Often they go from 2 meals per day in the family to just 1. These are tough questions. And of course, we're asking, is this temporary? When have you ever heard the price of food goes down? Well, if this is the new normal, it is completely unacceptable. If there's one thing we can be sure of, we're expecting more disruptions and more volatility. I mean, COVID really played havoc with our food systems. Overnight, millions of schools and other institutions just shut down, and people went hungry. And food waste, especially dairy meat and vegetables, all packaged for an institutional kitchen, and it wasn't repurposed, it was just lost, it just went off. I think at one point during COVID, I was washing my groceries. What happened to that? But overnight during COVID, the demands on the food banks rose exponentially. Food pantries that are designed sometimes to help just a few dozen people were having cars circling the blocks waiting for handouts. And demand has come down since then at the food banks, but it still far exceeds pre-pandemic levels. And we've seen other supply chain failures. Yes, of course, toilet paper, but more recently, and more specifically, baby formula. And this is really serious, devastating for moms and babies in need of formula. So we also have seen some countries, entire countries, that have had systemic failures. The most recent being Sri Lanka. Markets and food distribution there came to a grinding halt. And hunger and starvation, they were felt in less than a week. Volatile weather patterns, right? I have to mention this, the flooding in Pakistan, this was unprecedented. A third of the country's underwater, 33 million people upended overnight. Extensive damage to crops and livestock. $10 billion in damage was the estimate. They're going to be reeling for this for years to come. So we're seeing these breakdowns of institutions, of systems, of markets, of weather. And although many of these are isolated events, we expect more breakdowns. And I think this decade we're going to see some systemic failures. Until we get deeper at the root causes, until we reimagine our food systems. And so our call to action at the Hunger Project is to support those most vulnerable as they withstand the shocks these next decades. And I want to be absolutely clear, this is not about withstanding troubling times. Hunger is unacceptable at all times. Food and nourishment, so basic, so simple, so universal, it really should not be an issue. Right now, we have enough food on this planet to feed absolutely everyone on a 2,000 calorie a day diet year-round. Let's take one crop, corn. Let's put aside nutrition for a moment and look at calories. This year's corn harvest in the US provides enough calories to feed our entire nation for a year, 2,000 calories a day, not once, but twice over. That's just one crop. And the story's the same around the world. We have these areas that are abundant, and then countries and areas that lack food. And sometimes climate's a factor, sometimes markets are a factor, sometimes politics. Regardless, we just aren't very good at sharing food. Now, at the Hunger Project, it's more than just food. Hunger is about a lot more than food. It's about clean water and sanitation. It's about health care. And for those without these essentials, hunger will remain in place. We know even more fundamentally that hunger is about leadership, and especially about women's empowerment and human potential. Because when women are leading in their communities, we see health, education, and nutrition rise for all. This is a good time to say hi to my mom. Is she out there? Hi, Mom. I can't do that enough. I really can't. My mother was a political activist for the League of Women Voters in the 1980s in Connecticut. So tonight you'll also get to hear from Veda and hear more about inspiring women leaders. Veda has come to us all the way from New Delhi. We're really excited she's here. And we know that hunger is about community. Communities that leave no one behind and help even the most marginal have enough to eat. Now, as you think about hunger, and you imagine the lines of people waiting for food, like at those food banks. Some organizations are there to feed that line. That's not the Hunger Project. We're there to get rid of the line. We want a world without hunger with self-reliance. And we know this is possible already. Because right now, more than 1 million people, 1,053,000 people, are living in self-reliant communities. They've led themselves to the path of ending hunger and their communities. And what we find are these communities are remarkably resilient. They have food stores. They grow their food locally often. They have access to clean water, healthcare, and in some cases, technology. And they've done it themselves. As this next economic storm approaches, they are better prepared, more resilient, and they take matters into their own hands. Now, I want to invite you all to come with on a trip. You guys want to come on a trip? Yeah. Well, you're invited to one of our partner communities. We don't know where yet, but we want you to reach out. You'll meet people that were once living in poverty that now have such a terrific pride of accomplishment. This is Farida. I'll talk about her in a minute. I really don't have the words to describe someone who, you meet someone who's thriving that has access to so little resources compared to us. That is so inspirational. So I really, if you can do it, these are great trips. Okay, so 1 million people living in self-reliance. This is a lot of people. We've made a tremendous impact. This group, long before I joined, has done so much incredible work. And you hear also what we're up against now. We need more. When you have a good thing, you want to shout it from the rooftops. You want to take that good thing and spread it out. And we have, too. In 2015, we founded the Movement for Community-Led Development to take these principles and spread their adoptions, and it's worked. To date, more than 1,500 communities around the world and 75 international organizations have joined the movement using the principles and the methodology to impact millions more. This is the ripple effect that we want, right? Fantastic. Amazing. We're going to hear from John Coonrod later, too. Fantastic. Wow. Empowering women, putting communities in the lead, tapping into human potential. It has been such a remarkable journey at the Hunger Project. You'll hear a lot more about that tonight also. And as our journey continues to bring about the end of hunger during this decade of catastrophe, how might we support human resilience for the shocks ahead? How might we reimagine food systems for the benefit of people and planet? Our new strategy, it's called Amplify. It brings a 10x lens to our work. I'm going to share just 3 things that we need to do to end hunger. Just 3. There's more, but let's start with 3. First, we have to start with diet and nutrition and reimagine and shift our food systems, continuing all the way to the farm. The Hunger Project has joined together with partners, you heard about many of them earlier today, to reimagine those food systems at the UN Global Food System Summit. Healthy, nutritious food for all, grown in harmony with the earth is what's needed, a new agricultural revolution. In Mexico, we speak about food sovereignty, having the right to choose what you eat and when. And so these women are fantastic. This is the highlands of Oaxaca, indigenous communities. They've developed their own food pyramid. So here it is. The new graphic, it's called the Mazateca plate. It includes local fruits and vegetables that are part of the traditional diet. Foods locally grown and available that people are more familiar with than the widely used national nutritional guidelines. They are reinventing the food system from starting with their diet. Now, secondly, we need to turn to the next generation. I have the privilege of sitting with someone from Feel Good. Is Feel Good here tonight? Grilled cheese for all. Incredible, incredible group. But we need to turn to this next generation. Let me give you some data on this one. In India, 50% of the population is under 25. In Africa, 60% are under 25. Wow. This is a powerful group. Right now, we at the Hunger Project are supporting a network of more than 100,000 youth. It's called Action Against Hunger in Bangladesh. They've made remarkable strides in mobilizing their communities to improve nutrition, improve water and sanitation, even take responsibility for environmental protection. It's an incredible group. So, and finally, and this probably goes without saying, but we really have to grow food in harmony with the earth. We're losing our soils very quickly. A few months ago, I went to Uganda and I met this woman named Farida. You saw the picture of her earlier. She's a farmer, she's an entrepreneur. She's one of the million people that are living in a self-reliant epicenter. So when I met her, she welcomed me into her home. I came and I sat down, and she poured me a cup of pumpkin porridge. It was delicious. It was really simple, very nutritious, very healthy. She makes it herself. And she turned around, she showed me her vision, commitment, and action board and her plan for her family. And she shared even more about how she's impacting her community. So Farida is one of these amazing examples of how the Hunger Project supports individuals and communities to transform their lives. I wanted to bring her here. But at least we got her voice here in the room tonight. I asked our team in Uganda to go out and take a video of her. Would you like to see her? Let's meet Farida.
This is my pumpkin garden. I planted it in July. I will harvest in November. This is 1 acre. There is 1,000 pumpkin plantation. If we are a team, I have 2 women and a man. We take 3 graders to cut the pumpkin. And the pumpkin, we take it in the sun like this to dry it.
Wow. So her pumpkin patch you saw there, it's ringed with a garden, and she grows okra, she grows papaya, corn, soy. She grows crops together. And you saw, I don't know if you saw in the distance, but you'll see in a second here, there are trees coming up. And the tree roots support the soil so they don't lose soil. It keeps down the erosion. It's part of the ecosystem. Planting the crops together helps the soil health. She uses natural fertilizer and seeds. She's sheltered from the economic pressure. Fertilizer also went up in price, huge price jump in fertilizer. So let's have a quick look at her garden. Listen for the goats. Farida will explain more.
When we bought the first seeds, we keep our seeds. We plant it next season and we don't go to buy another seeds because in our store there is seed. We get our fertilizers from our cows, then it's cow dung. We use wheelbarrows. I have a team of maybe 3 people which help me to take cow dung in the garden. We use wheelbarrows. And children, when they come in holidays, they help us to take those cow dung in the garden. And we use urine to power crops and fertilize them. In the urine, we add red pepper and tobacco. Those tobaccos help to fight the cayob from bananas.
Now, gardens like this, they don't just happen. I mean, she grows so many wonderful things there, and it really requires someone with a vision for what they want to accomplish and to take action. And this is where the Hunger Project really shines. Our Vision Commitment Action Workshop has brought tremendous change for her and her family, and now she's expanding. She's opening up new branches everywhere. She's expanding into other products. Let's hear more directly from her on this one.
At first, to make my products, I get 4 kilograms of soya and I planted it. In 4 kilograms, I get 90 kilograms of soya. And I request myself that why I don't add value on this soya. Because they give me little money, which is not added value. And I go to market, I ask marketeers, they give me knowledge how to add value. And I started to grind with Chinook, but it is not good. And I take my soya to factory and I add on value and I get more money than that one. I see that process, I have potential of making a factory of my own. And that factory, people of community, they get job in my factory. That potential, I hear on myself.
I got to send her a video back, so if you see me later, come up to me and say hi to Farida. I'll capture it on my camera. Wonderful, wonderful person. And, needless to say, if you go to Uganda, I recommend the pumpkin porridge. It's delicious. Thank you, Farida, for all you're doing. Now, there's more we need to do to assure healthy, nutritious food for all. But in the Hunger Project, it starts with people. We have to face our challenges this decade, wherever we live in the world, and I hope you can join me in supporting those most vulnerable to the shocks. Today's crises are an opportunity for us to transform the way the world works. Let's take bold actions to reinvent our food system and grow healthy, nutritious food in harmony with the earth. Farida is an inspiration, and there's more coming. You'll hear from many others tonight. I am so glad you are with us. Thank you for being here. You are needed. We have a long tradition at the Hunger Project. Our investors, our partners, our friends, they help us guide our actions. This is an extremely well-informed group. So deeply committed we are to a future free of hunger. And we know our actions today can have an impact on generations to come, just as they have done in the past for the Hunger Project.